in to the hottest station on the planet.
Resistance is futile. The revolution has begun.
You're listening to Rebelpreneur Radio, helping you break the rules and build the business you need for the life you want. And now, broadcasting his pirate signal
from somewhere beyond the status quo,
here's your host, best-selling author, marketing and media strategist, Ralph Brogden.
Hello and welcome to Rebelpreneur Radio, the show that helps you build the business you need for the life you want. I'm Ralph Brogden. You know, a lot of people, they start out trying to build their business in hopes that they can get the life that they want. Today's guest really created his life and then made the business work for him. And it's all about inventing yourself or reinventing yourself, challenging the status quo, challenging the conventional wisdom that says this is how you have to live your life. Well, today's guest has, I think, broken pretty much all the rules and all the conventional wisdom that tells you how you should live your life. And he has done some really amazing and interesting things. So we are really fortunate to have him on the show today. I'm speaking with Danny Levin. He walked away from an opportunity to run a $1 billion business to find happiness and inner peace. His life has been a combination of incredible victories as well as devastating defeats. And one thing I find interesting is that he was one day away from being ordained as a rabbi. We'll have to find out what happened, why he didn't, why he walked away from that. There's a story there. He lived as a monk in a monastery for 10 years. He ran a restaurant, a publishing house, a market, a meditation retreat. He owned a clothing company, a branding company, and a coaching business. So when we're talking about building a business and building a life, this man has done it. And as director of business development for Hay House, he grew it from $3 million to $100 million a year in sales. He thought he knew his purpose, but only truly discovered it when he became the author of the book, The Mosaic, a fable about connection and seeing what we do not see. Danny Levin, welcome to Rebelpreneur Radio.
Wow, that guy sounds interesting. I would love to talk to him.
Well, he is interesting, and as a matter of fact, you can talk to him.
I love it. And so let me first of all thank you for such a beautiful introduction. And then let me also say my little disclaimer, because really what I believe is none of that is really that important. All that's really important today, Ralph, is if in our conversation we're able to connect to people and we're able to touch people and we're able to give people something that they can take away that makes their life better, happier, more fulfilling to them. And if we can do that, if I would have lived under a bridge for all those years, it still would have been fine. And if I can't do that, then nothing that we've said makes my life any more valuable in this moment to the people we're speaking with.
Amen to that. Well, your book is called The Mosaic, and you describe that book as a book about connection to ourselves, our source, our purpose, our planet, and to each other. So you believe that everything is connected. Tell us a little bit about the philosophy. What's your philosophy behind the idea of the mosaic and the fact that everything is connected?
So really, it's a disruption in my mind. What's happened is the lie has become so easy to believe that we now call it the truth. And the truth has become so hard to believe, we call it a lie. And but the truth isn't a lie. And the lie isn't true. And the lie is that we are not connected, that we're separate. If you think about it, it was only metaphysics for a lot of years that was talking in the field of we are energy and we are all apart, we are all one. But now science and religion and spirituality are catching up to each other. In fact, science is even drawing spirituality in back of it. It's pulling it behind it through the laws of quantum physics.
Yes.
That are showing us that when we look at what we think is our body, this solid thing, it's telling us we're made up of 85% water. And that when we look at it under a microscope or whatever we look at to magnify it so that we can actually see our bodies, we do not see any solid matter. We see swirls of energy moving at different speeds of molecules and atoms. And so if we look at the very thing that's solid in front of us, that very thing that makes us think I'm separate than you are, and we see that it's energy, then really, Ralph, what's happening in this moment is what you are exhaling this moment, I'm inhaling 3 seconds later. Because energy moves at a speed that we don't move in this world. And so the lie has to end. This thought that we're separate and all the things that come along with that have to end. Because here's what the formula of the world is: our thoughts become our words become our stories, and our stories create our life. So if we have the thought that we're separate, the stories that we create by that are, if I'm separate, I'm either better or worse. I'm different. Because my skin is a color your skin's not, I'm better than you. Because I live on this side of the border and you live on the other side of the border, I'm better than you. Because I'm a man and you're a woman, I'm better than you. Because I have more money and you have less money, I'm better than you. Which makes all of us insecure because we want to be as good as everybody else. The paradigm has to change, and that's what the Mosaic is really all about. The paradigm has to change from a vertical reality where we look down on people, we teach people, we fix people, we govern people, we lead people, to a Mosaic reality where all of the pieces sit in harmony together. And it doesn't matter if they're big or small, whole or broken, solid or colored. It doesn't matter what they are. They come together, and it's in the coming together of all the pieces that we create something so much more magnificent than any one of the pieces could be.
Yeah, I like that. It reminds me of Stephen Covey, his 7 habits, and one of his habits is synergy, that the whole is greater than the parts. And so I see lots of ways to apply this spiritual distinction that we're all connected. My next question is, how did you get going down this path? Where you've had successful businesses, but you've also pursued various spiritual paths, especially that one day short of being ordained as a rabbi.
Yeah, that one's crowing at you, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I want to know because, tell us about that. Tell us about your journey, because it's not a typical journey, is it?
No. And for the beginning part of my life, it sort of tormented me. Not tormented, it's too harsh a word. But it made me feel alone. I lost my dad when I was 13 years old. And I lost my mom 2 years later on the same day, on the 4th of July, when I was 15 years old.
Wow.
And so it was only 45 years later, when I was writing my book, The Mosaic, that I realized, in looking back, why I didn't stay in the places I had gone to, because I had numerous opportunities. My uncle, when I lost my parents, I went to live with my aunt and uncle. My uncle was R block of H&R block. He didn't have
the R and the H&R, huh?
Yeah, the H and the R. Richard Block, and his brother was Henry Block. So they were H&R Block, and he didn't have any sons. He had 3 daughters, and this was 45 years ago. When, or even more than that, 48 years ago. And in those days, men in the Midwest in Kansas City didn't think that they could give their businesses to their daughters. That's how much we've grown in these years.
Yeah.
And so when I came in, he said, I've been watching you for 3 months, and I see in you the possibility that I will start you pushing a broom at H&R Block. But I believe within 5 to 7 years, you will be sitting in my seat. And I want to offer that to you. And so I looked at him and I said, You know what? That is so generous of you. I would like to watch you for a year and then give you my answer a year from now. And he said, are you serious? He said, do you know that 99.9% of the world, given that offer, would say, where's the broom and when do I start? And I said, just our rotten luck that I'm the 0.00001% that doesn't say that. And I said, if that troubles you, let's take the offer off the table. He said, no, in fact, it intrigues me. And so that's a whole nother story that we'll tell when we have over a glass of wine or something, or a cup of coffee, or a glass of scotch or something good, But I didn't do that. But what I realized in writing the Mosaic is that what I was really looking for, when my parents passed away, I asked all the adults where my parents were. And they told me they're in this place that's called heaven. And so I set out, just like I did in the book, in the Mosaic. I set out in search for the place called heaven. And as beautiful and as beautiful a worldly paradise it was, to go to H&R Block and take that over, it wasn't the heaven I was looking for. So I had to walk away from it. And so I went into studied psychology, thinking that would be the way to answer my questions. And in 2 years, I took all the courses I needed to take to have an undergraduate degree in psychology, because I didn't fill up my plate with all the other fuller stuff. And I realized after 2 years, I didn't want to do psychology. So I set out and put my thumb out and started to hitchhike around the world. And the people that I met on that journey, a lot of them remind me of the characters I speak of in the Mosaic. And I thought, I'm going to go to India because I believe that's where my answers are going to be found. And along the way, we stopped in Israel. And I was with two girls at that time that we were traveling together with. And we said, it's getting cold. Why don't we go to a kibbutz? We spent 9 months on a kibbutz. It was fabulous, but it didn't have any spirit. It wasn't my heaven again. So I went to the Wailing Wall to sit and just meditate for the whole day on Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement in Judaism. And I met these two guys who said, you should come with us for dinner to break the fast. And I told them I'd been looking for this holy man that was spoken of in this book that I had been given. And they said, we know where he is. We can tell you how to get there. And I went to see that holy man and I asked him for a blessing to go to India. He threw me out of his office. And I said, what? I'm not leaving. And he said, what do you mean you're not leaving? I said, I'm not leaving. I came here to get a blessing, and you're the teacher and I'm the student. I don't understand what you're saying. I'm an 18-year-old kid. Help me. And he said, you've come here and you say you've seen Israel north, south, east, and west. You say you've been here for 9 months. You haven't seen a thing. Because if you could see it, you would never leave here. So if you want to go to India, but you'll go there and you won't see a thing there either. If you want to learn how to see, come back tomorrow. I said, I can't come back tomorrow. I'm leaving to fly to Turkey and then go overland to India. He said, that's why I threw you out of the office. Tomorrow came and I was back in his office. And I studied with him for 5 years. And yet what happened for me is I realized that I didn't believe the things that he always told me, take what we're giving you. And if you can't agree with it, put it on a shelf. And then because your problems don't grow, you grow. The more strength you have in yourself, you get taller. So what looks like it's a high shelf now will actually become a molehill when you get bigger. So just put them on the shelf and let's come back and see them. And the day before I was going to be ordained, there's a bigger story, but this is where we'll stay for now. I came to him and I said, my shelf broke. There's too many things on there and now there's stuff all over the ground. I've got to go. And I went to India.
What did he say to that?
He said, I completely respect you for what you're doing. I just don't agree with your solution. I said, but I can't, in the integrity of the humanness of who I am as a man, I cannot agree to get ordained in your name and not follow your teaching.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be unrighteous of me. And so I just have to leave. So my whole life, what happened, because my mom and dad passed away, maybe, but it even happened before that. I remember as a little kid having a little play friend that nobody saw. And I would talk with him. He was my best friend. And I would talk to him, and my mom came in the room. She said, "Who are you talking to, Danny?" I said, "He's right here." She said, "Don't you see him?" And she said, "No, I don't see him. Maybe we need to take you someplace." I said, "Maybe we do." And she said, "Never tell anybody about that guy again, because they'll think you're crazy." But I would see all the time things that other people couldn't see. And it became a sore spot for me because it alienated me from people. And even though I knew how to play the game and have friends and be a part of it, internally I was torn. Until finally what happened is businesses started to say, we want to innovate, we want to grow, we want to do things, and we're stuck in seeing things the way we see it. Can you help us come in and start to adjust the way we see things? And that's what happened at Hay House. They said, we're only going to publish self-help books, but we can't get the popular self-help authors because they're getting paid big royalties, getting paid big advances at big publishing houses, and we can't pay them $1 million advance. I said, well, if we want it and we know what we want, let's find a way to get it. And they said, you'll never be able to do that. I said, sure, I will. And I created this card deck series that nobody had ever done. And we started to go to the New York Times bestselling authors in self-help. And we said, we'll do these for you. We'll just take the 50 top things that you say and we'll design them beautifully and put them in a deck and make the cards beautiful. We'll sell them for $17.95 or $19.95. And we'll give you high royalties on that because they're gifts, they're not books. And in a very short period of time, those card decks were selling 10 times more than their New York Times best-selling books. And they came to me and said, Danny, why wouldn't we come and publish our books with you? And I said, that's really a good question. I can tell you the easy answer. The easy answer is you're getting $1 million advance, and we can't give you that. But we can give you a higher royalty because you're selling all your books anyway. Your publisher's just getting the books in the bookstores. We can do that.
Right.
And so one by one, they started to come. And slowly we went from selling what I call the cream of the crap, which was all great books, but by people nobody had ever heard of, to selling great books by people everybody craved.
And that's how you went from 3 million to 100 million.
Yeah, 3 million to 100 million, bam, just like that, because of a change of viewpoint, because of a different perspective of we can't ever do that to yes, we can do that. We just have to figure out how to do it.
Right.
And for anybody who's in business or wanting to learn how to do business or develop business, the biggest clue that I would say to people is don't do what everybody else is doing. Everybody else is trying to sell you on what they do so you can have the crumbs that fall from their table. Prepare the banquet and sit at the table and eat your own food. Does this make sense?
It makes lots of sense. I love it because it really gets to the heart of what it means to be, for me, what it means to be a rebelpreneur. It's not to do what everybody else does. If you do what everybody else does, you'll get what everybody else gets. And most of the time that means fighting over crumbs instead of having the whole pie or having the whole feast as you are describing here. So this is a really, really excellent way to think about what it takes to have a business that is going to serve you and serve other people so that you can live the life that you want, not from a place of scarcity, but you can elevate your business beyond just a money-making endeavor to making a difference while you're making money. And money just is a measure. It's not the purpose of the business.
And Ralph, the reason why most people don't do that is we don't have the courage to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you go against the grain of the way the world is working, You don't fit into a neat little box that everybody feels comfortable in. And when you break the status quo and you become an innovator and you become a disruptor and you do things different, the world looks at you as if you're crazy until you get to a certain level of success where then they say this crazy person is successful.
You know, when you say that, it reminds me of Walt Disney. That's exactly his path to success. Everyone thought he was nuts. He didn't have, he had lots of creativity and vision. He saw the whole thing from start to finish, but he didn't know anything about money. I think it was his brother or his cousin or somebody who actually handled all the financing and tried to raise money for this impossible vision. But Walt Disney was someone who had a great vision, but no one could see it until it became a reality. And then, something incredible happened, but, he was a disruptor as well.
Totally. I remember sitting with one of our authors, Sylvia Browne. She was a world-renowned psychic. And people would come up to her and say, it must be so good to be so well known. And she said, yeah. And they said, you're like an overnight success. And she said, yeah, that overnight took 40 years.
Mm-hmm. I've said that lots of times about myself.
Right? And so who has the courage to spend 40 years doing what they believe is right when they could easily sell out and be successful financially doing what everybody else tells them to do? But here's the thing. When we do what other people tell us to do, we live the life that other people lead. And at this point in life, I'm not going to say nobody's fulfilled because there are a lot of people that are fulfilled. But there are a lot of people making a lot of money that are living very unfulfilled lives because they're not living their life. They're living the life of someone else. And if I would have stayed at H&R Block, or if I would have stayed in the yeshiva, in the seminary, if I would have become a rabbi, I would have been a successful rabbi. They were already recruiting me in 30 of the 50 states to come and have my pulpit there. But I wouldn't have been fulfilled because there were still questions that I couldn't answer. And what I would really recommend to people is if you can have the courage to live inside out, rather than outside in. If you can know your peace, Piece, you will find your peace, Peace. And that peace, Piece, is what will make your mosaic exquisite. Because what you start your mosaic with, the piece that you start with, is how the other pieces will fit into you.
Very good. Very excellent. Excellent, inspirational, and motivational. So you've had a lot of experiences, a lot of spiritual experiences, as well as a lot of business experiences. Tell us a little bit more about what you're doing today and who do you work with? What are you into right now?
So I already shared with you, I hate being sold to. And so I also hate selling people. The work that I'm doing right now is I'm reaching out to those people who are living from the outside in and don't have any idea how to connect inside out. So few of us really know who we really are. So few of us have the courage to sit with ourselves and say, what is it that I've come here to do? There's 4 practices that the Mosaic has taught me, and they are the practices that help bring connection. And to me, what I'm trying to do now is we live in the most connected time the world has ever known. Something can happen 15,000 miles away, and I can know of it 3 seconds later. But I don't know the name of my next door neighbor.
That's ironic, isn't it?
And it's true, right?
Yeah, absolutely true.
And so how can we be so connected in one way and so disconnected in another? I don't forget about my next door neighbor. I don't even know what I like and what I dislike. Right? And I know that laugh is a laugh of knowing. Right? Because Because we so are outside of ourselves. We're so used to doing what the world wants us to do. We have no idea what we do. I have a developmentally delayed daughter, and she decided she wanted to live in a group home. And so someone said to me, that must feel so good. Now you're going to have your Saturdays and your Sundays free. What are you going to do? I said, I have no idea. I haven't had a Saturday or Sunday free in my whole life, because I've always been there to take care of my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I started to realize that I didn't even know myself, I spent the time to get to know myself. So the first practice of connection is to be kind to ourselves. It sounds so pedantic. It sounds so simple. It sounds like I've heard that saying, God, I want to throw up. I've heard it so many times. But none of us do it. I created a Be Kind to You 21 consecutive day challenge. I created a bracelet that says Be Kind to You. And I put it on my left wrist to start. And as soon as I do something that sabotages me, as soon as I say something bad about myself, as soon as I say you're just an idiot, as soon as I say, no, you can't do that, as soon as I eat something I shouldn't eat, I take that bracelet off and I put it on my right wrist and I start over. The idea is to get to 21 consecutive days. Do you know, Ralph, I've been wearing that bracelet now for over 3. Sorry. Sorry, I can't even get to the place where I can decline this. There. Okay. I am so sorry for that.
Not a problem. One time I had my phone sitting up here and something I said activated you know who on my iPhone, and she started talking to me and I couldn't shut her up no matter what I did.
I so apologize. I'm on my computer and it just rings through. So I've had that bracelet now for about 4 months. Guess what day I'm on?
I don't know.
Day 1. I've gotten to day 4 1 time.
Wow.
I've gotten to day 3 4 times. I've gotten to day 2 8 times. But I'm happy if I get through day 1 without switching it 10 times.
Yeah. So you're using that as a way to raise your awareness of your
awareness of how much I put myself down.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm constantly hitting myself, what's the natural thing that I would do? I would build protection for myself. So I built a wall around myself. You know, I don't carry a brick and mortar wall around myself, but what metaphorically, I've built a wall 3 inches away from my body, because like if I would take my right hand and punch myself somewhere and protect myself with my left hand, it would be about 3 inches from where I am. And I have no idea where I'm going to hit myself or when I'm going to hit myself. So that wall goes from my top of my head to the bottom of my toes and probably a little bit higher.
And we all have one of those, don't we?
I think so.
Yeah.
And that's why this 21 consecutive day challenge of Be Kind to Yourself is so important. Because if I can stop hitting myself, then I can take down that wall, because I don't need to protect myself from myself anymore. And now suddenly my world exponentially grows 10 feet, 5 feet. Now I might see you and say, I got to put up a wall because you're a scary guy. I don't know what you're going to do to me. Right?
Yeah.
But now I've known that now I at least know that through the practice of kindness, I can help dismantle that wall between you and me.
Yeah.
If I can look over and say, Ralph, I know you're scared of me and I'm scared of you, but I promise you I'm not going to hurt you. Just like I promised myself I'm not going to hurt myself. There is no need for this wall. Keep the other 3 walls around you if you want. But let's drop this one.
Excellent. That's a good philosophy.
Right? At that point, the second practice becomes possible.
Yeah.
Which is become vulnerable. Suddenly, when I drop my wall, I'm open to the world around me. I experience all sorts of things. I allow a lot more things to come in, and I'm able to give a lot more out. And especially if I'm able to dismantle the walls between people around me as well, then my walled, siloed world becomes a free, open territory.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can see that. I could also see people saying, well, I've been hurt and burned in the past, and you're telling me to be vulnerable. What happens if I get hurt again? And the answer is, you will, right?
1,000%. You will. Yeah. But here's the beauty of living a connected life. When you get hurt, you have people around you that will help you up. And Thich Nhat Hanh said, have you ever heard of Thich Nhat Hanh? He's a Vietnamese monk.
No.
Do yourself a favor and go to Super Soul Sun, go to Google and type in on YouTube, Thich Nhat Hanh Super Soul Sunday with Oprah. There's a 3-minute piece that he does on compassionate listening. It's what I believe the Mosaic is, and I wish that I would have been able to say it as beautifully as he does, but I don't need to anymore. I can just give him credit for it. And what he says is the way to get through those pains that we feel is to when we introduce ourselves to another person or when we're sitting with another person, for me to be able to say to you, Ralph, I don't know you at all, but I want to know you. And what I want to know is your successes, and I want to know your suffering. Please take a minute and tell me what your pains are. And if you think that I would ever use those against you, please know that I promise you with every cell in my being that I will never harm you with that information. But I want to offer you the space to get that out of yourself and to put it into this holding space that I'm creating for us right here now. And even if you come at me, Ralph, and you try and hurt me, even if you come at me and you yell at me and you say it's your fault because I'm feeling this way, I just sit and listen. I just allow you the freedom to express yourself however you feel. I don't try and rationalize. I don't try and make excuses. I don't try and tell you why what you believe is wrong. I don't try and tell you why I believe what I believe is right. I just hold the space for you to empty everything that pains you into this container. And when I'm able to do that, and you're able to get rid of the things that cause you suffering, slowly what happens is you're not going to hurt me anymore. You're not going to be mad at me anymore because you're going to see that you've spent all that. You've given all that up. I've allowed you the space to tell me that I suck and I'm wrong and I haven't fought you. I've just allowed you to tell me whatever you feel. Our world today, Ralph, we don't listen anymore. Look how much I'm talking, and I'm talking about listening, right? And it pains me, but I'm trying to express this message, and I wish I could say it quicker and shorter and more succinct.
Well, I want to make sure this is good, but I want to make sure that we get all 4 practices in to the episode. So the first practice is to be kind to ourselves. The second practice is to become vulnerable. It's even hard for me to say it because it seems like it would be a hard thing, but it makes sense the way you describe it. What's the third practice?
The third practice is to do what you came to do. Once we become vulnerable, it opens up a world to us. When I sit and talk to people and I say, why do you think you're here? I can't tell you how many people, probably 90% of the people that I speak to say, I don't know.
They don't have an idea.
I don't have any idea. What do you mean, what am I here for? And so when I explain to them that the creator of this universe doesn't need to duplicate, if what I was created to do has already been done before, there's no need for me to be here. There's no purpose to my life. It's already been done. And take it a step further. If I achieve what I'm brought here to do, then there's no need ever again in the future for someone to be created to do what I'm doing.
True, yeah.
So throughout all of time, this moment right now of my life has one purpose that has never been done before and will never be done again. Wouldn't you think for a minute that might be worth taking some time to discover what that is?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that in business terms is your unique selling proposition. In life terms, it's being a uniquely special person. But we can't get to that if we're on social media trying to copy everybody else and keep up with them and try to impress everyone else by being the same. It's about being who we are supposed to be and doing what we came to do, not try to be the carbon copy of somebody else and what somebody else is trying to accomplish.
1,000,000%. And the reason we try and do that is because we're scared to go out of the box of what the world wants us to be.
Yeah.
And so,
and we don't know why we're here. So we just borrow somebody else's vision and mission and values, but it's not us. It's not authentic. Therefore, our voice is not powerful because it's someone else's language. It's not touching us. It's not coming from us. All of this really makes sense.
And that's the brilliance of this methodology that's been given to me by the Mosaic, because when we're kind to ourselves, we don't allow ourselves to do what someone else is doing. When we're vulnerable, we're open to what we've come here to do. We're not just holed off in our wall. We listen and we follow the clues and we look for the ideas. And when we find purpose, then what happens is we now know why we're here. So now we know ourselves. We're vulnerable and open to the world around us, so we know them and we give them the space to be themselves. And we know purpose. Now that leads us to the fourth step, where we build our mosaic, where we connect to those purposeful people who are kind, who are at peace with themselves, who are vulnerable and open to seeing the world not through a like-minded community, but through a mix of like and unlike minds, where innovation happens, and where we come together to spark new ideas and see the world in different ways. And we connect to those people and we build a new world. That's the new world that we're coming to. That's the Mosaic model, where all the pieces together make up something so much more than each individual piece could ever even imagine. We see solutions that we don't even know are available when we're together. Because, are you aware of swarm intelligence?
No.
So swarm intelligence is, people looked at the way birds fly through the sky. And you would think when you look at them that one bird is leading, the bird in front is leading, but nobody's leading. They're all flying in synchronicity to each other. Fish, the way they swim through the water, they all move in synchronicity to each other. No one's leading them. And the only people that don't do that is humans. We don't move in swarms. So someone with AI decided, we're going to test swarm intelligence with human beings. And they came up and they found over and over again, people were finding answers that nobody could predict. And so someone came and challenged them and said, we want to make sure if what you're saying is true, then you should have no problem taking this challenge. And they said, no, we won't. Let's try it and see what happens. And they said, what's the challenge? They said, we want you to predict the winners of the Kentucky Derby, first, second, third, and fourth place. Now, the chances of doing that are like 568,000 to 1. And they brought together 60 horse enthusiasts from all around the world. And they sat them in a common internet room. And they had a puck in the middle of the room, and their mouse was a magnet that drew that puck to one of 8 places, one of 8 horses. Do you know that the 60 of them came up with the first, second, third, fourth winners numerous times under numerous challenges? Wow. And none of them, here's the amazing thing, not one of them picked the first place horse to be their first place horse. Not one of them picked the second place horse to be the second place horse. Only one of them picked the third place horse to come in third place. And none of them picked the fourth place horse on their own. So together they came up with solutions that none of them individually believed.
Interesting.
What would that do to the world that we live in if we could find solutions that weren't from this silo or that silo, weren't from Democrats or Republicans, weren't from rich people or poor people or white people or black people, but were solutions that we together globally came up with? That's the new model. That's the Mosaic model. That's the model of connected intelligence that my book doesn't even talk about, but it only hints at. Because in a book that talks about seeing the world differently than you see it, seeing not the world that we see, but the world that we don't see, it only makes sense now that I realize it, why it would erase the words that I wrote and rewrite them. As I was writing it, I would write something, it would erase it, and it would rewrite it. And it took me 3 years to write a book that I thought would take 2 or 3 months. Because it wanted me to say what it wanted me to say. And now as I look back, it's only hinting and alluding to things that I'm talking about now that are right there in the book, but it only hints at it because it wants you to see what you can't see even in the very book itself. There's magic in that book.
There is. It's a beautiful book. It's illustrated. It's very artistic as well as spiritual. And congratulations on being able to get that out there to the world. It's very interesting. And
thank you. I want to just ask you something. I love that you say it's spiritual because I took great lengths not to mention anything spiritual in it. The characters are not classic archetypes. Mm-hmm. There's only one classic archetype that's the wise one, but the other ones are a garbage man, a juice man, a street artist, a homeless person, a blind woman, a waitress. I mean, they're normal, everyday, ordinary people. There's nothing spiritual about them because I didn't want it to be a religious book. Right. I wanted to show the beauty of the ordinary of the world.
Well, that's the best kind of spirituality, the kind that is expressed in everyday people in everyday situations.
Exactly.
In my view. So
thank you.
Well done with that. And this has really been eye-opening and mind-blowing and mind-shifting as well as we consider how to take these things and apply them to our life so that we can build a great business, but really touch people on a deeper level than just dollars and cents. So it's been really great to begin to connect with you. I feel like there's so much more that we could talk about, but
I hope we will.
Yeah. But any final thoughts or words of wisdom you'd like to share with our listeners before we call it a wrap?
Yeah. The destination we choose for our life will determine the route we use to get there. If our destination is to be rich, the route we take will take us to being rich, but it might not take us to being happy. So what I would invite people to consider is, what is it you really want? Why do you want the money? Why do you want a successful business? Because if you can have a successful life, if you can be a successful human being, if you can treat people with dignity and respect, if you can listen more than you speak, if you can really connect with other people in the world, I don't believe for a minute you won't have everything you need and want. But if you try and do it the other way, if you try and get what you want without being who you want to be, you may lose who you want to be in the process.
Very good. Words of wisdom. I've been speaking with Danny Levin. He is the author of the Mosaic. He's a visionary, a magician, a mentor, a speaker, and just an all-around, I got to say spiritual, but much deeper than spiritual. Just full of wisdom and a wealth of information and life-altering, transformational truth. I hope that you will check him out. You can connect with him, at least over the internet, on his website at themosaiconline.com. Find out more about his book and about, you really need to get a copy of this book. It's beautiful. Take a look at it. Check it out.
Thank you so much. And it's also available on Amazon if that's easier for people.
Awesome. So, Danny Levin, it has been a real pleasure to have you on Rebelpreneur Radio. I hope that we can do it again sometime. And thanks so much for sharing your wisdom with us today.
It was my honor and privilege, and I hope this is the beginning, not the end of our relationship together.
You've been listening to Rebelpreneur Radio with Ralph Brogden. Download the show notes and much more at rebelpreneur.com.